Dude, did you order...
The new iPhone 17 Pro? Got it from Verizon, the best 5G network in America. I never looked so good.
You look the same.
But with this camera, everything looks better. Especially me.
You haven't changed your hair in 15 years. Selfies? Check, please.
With Verizon, get the new iPhone 17 Pro, designed to be the most powerful iPhone ever, plus a new iPad and Apple One. No trade-in needed. Offer ends November 5th with a new line on Unlimited Ultimate. Best 5G source root metrics data, United States, 1H 2025. All rights reserved. Additional terms apply for all offers. See Verizon.com for details.
You know what's faster than your paycheck? Literally everything. It's time to get your pay up to speed. With Earnin, you can access your pay as you work instead of waiting days and weeks for a paycheck. Get up to $150 a day with a max of $750 between paydays. No interest, no credit checks, and no mandatory fees. Because, hey, it's your money. Download the Earnin app now to get it and join millions of people making any day payday. That's EARNIN. Earnin is not a bank. Access limits are based on your earnings and risk factors. Available in select states. Expedited transfers available for a fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Visit earnin.com for full details.
Hi, I'm Kit.
And I'm Rory.
And we're from the award-winning podcast, This Paranormal Life.
Every week, we investigate a different paranormal case.
On episode 387, we actually had Emma from Real Life Ghost Stories on the pod. Huge fan favourite episode.
Sorry, is that it?
I thought that was the whole investigation. Was
so he
this
could
guy?
be German. We actually don't know.
Oh, he could be!
It was a great one, and we are also performing live across the UK and Ireland with our hilarious and terrifying live show, where we listen to real ghost stories submitted by the public, and they are insane.
I have to tell you something.
Dark hooded figure standing at the gate.
She insists I didn't see anything.
Very spooky. We are coming to Glasgow, Manchester, Dublin, and London, starting on the 28th of October, running through Halloween.
It's a great way to celebrate Halloween, so get your costumes ready and grab a ticket at thisparanormallife.com/tour.
That's thisparanormallife.com/tour.
Hello and welcome to 31 Days of Terror 2025, and we are on day number 27, and I have two spooky stories for you today, and story number 1 comes from Aidan. I love horror movies, but I am a huge skeptic. But what I experienced I cannot explain, and I will never be able to explain. It happened 10 or so years ago. I was staying at my Metallica fan of a friend's house. Don't worry, no Ouija boards or seances in sight. I've seen enough horrors to know that you don't fuck with that. The sleeping arrangements were as follows. He was on a single high bed. Any arm movement could be seen, and I could just see the side of his face and the top of his body. I was sleeping on the floor with my feet holding the door shut. The first spook was debunkable. The light above him that kept appearing. He had a mobile phone, and when he tried to prove it wrong, he would turn it around, making the light more faded. This was the Motorola flip phone era. The second spook. We were metalheads, so you can imagine the wall was covered in paper posters that when they moved, they made that crisp noise. Something like a ball kept hitting the posters, but there was no ball in sight, as it would have ricocheted and probably hit me as it landed. Also, I would be able to see his arm move as he threw things. But alas, the impact kept coming. Below his bed, there was a small chest of drawers, and I kid you not, those kept opening. He would have to lean over his bed like the Grudge to open those drawers. But nope, he was laying on his bed. He even asked why I was opening the drawers. And to rule out sleep paralysis, I actually got up and kept closing the drawer. I think I closed them about 3 times. Finally, I'm not joking, the entity got bored and fucked off out of the room. It literally pushed my feet aside as if barging the door open. There was no explanation of who this entity was. My friend said a baby died in the house. Well, that baby had gains. I know a lot of people say when in the presence of an entity the temperature drops. For me, personally, the room stayed at room temperature. Bonus story for you from the accounts of my sister Faith, who actually introduced me to your show. She was having a sleepover at a friend's backyard in a tent. Call it possession, call it fucking about, but one girl kept saying the alphabet, and every time it landed on the start of one of the girls' names, she would stop and start again. She also reckoned she saw a ghostly white head poking up from behind the wall. Right, here's the moral of this story. Don't go to a sleepover ever. A, you're going to end up sleeping on the floor. B, you're going to end up haunted. And I know this didn't happen in your story, right? But do you remember the days when you'd have your bedroom covered in posters and you'd be like lying in bed at night in the dark, and next thing one of the posters would fall off the wall, and it was that was the original jump scare. Do you know what I mean? Before Paranormal Activity, your poster falling off the wall in the middle of the night was the original jump scare. And it really sounds like whatever was in the house or in that bedroom, right? So it was like the ball was hitting off the wall, or at least that's what it sounded like. Maybe somebody's fist, maybe somebody banging on the wall, the drawers opening and closing, and then eventually it like shoved you out of the way to get out. It sounded like it just was like, okay, well, I'm not getting the reaction that I wanted, so fuck this, I'm off. And maybe in the afterlife, babies who pass away get superhuman strength. Seems like a pretty good trade-off. And here you are, like, telling me about your sister Faith, who also had weird shit happen at a sleepover. Possession, ghostly white head peeking up from behind the wall. No, never go to sleepovers, people. No sleepovers allowed.
Dude, did you order...
The new iPhone 17 Pro? Got it from Verizon, the best 5G network in America. I never looked so good.
You look the same.
But with this camera, everything looks better. Especially me.
You haven't changed your hair in 15 years. Selfies? Check, please.
With Verizon, get the new iPhone 17 Pro, designed to be the most powerful iPhone ever, plus a new iPad and Apple One. No trade-in needed. Offer ends November 5th with a new line on Unlimited Ultimate. Best 5G source root metrics data United States 1H 2025. All rights reserved. Additional terms apply for all offers. See Verizon.com for details.
You know what's faster than your paycheck? Literally everything. It's time to get your pay up to speed. With Earnin, you can access your pay as you work instead of waiting days and weeks for a paycheck. Get up to $150 a day with a max of $750 between paydays. No interest, no credit checks, and no mandatory fees. Because, I mean, hey, it's your money. Download the Earnin app now to get it and join millions of people making any day payday. That's EARNIN. Earnin is not a bank. Access limits are based on your earnings and risk factors available in select states. Expedited transfers available for a fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Visit earnin.com for full details.
When you think of skyrocketing brands like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, it's easy to credit their success to great products, sleek branding, and brilliant marketing. But here's the overlooked secret. The real magic lies in the engine behind the scenes, the business powering their business. For millions of brands, that engine is Shopify, making selling seamless for them and shopping effortless for us. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Aloe Yoga uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/retail, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/retail to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/retail.
And our second story today comes from Karen. Growing up in the 80s in Dublin, and the youngest of two brothers, was very different in the ways of the world now. For starters, my mother was extremely sexist, still is. And every second Sunday when my dad's family would come to dinner, I was expected to help clean, serve teas and look pretty. My brothers were normally fed first and allowed to leave the home to play with friends. But every visit without fail would end up with the rest of the family in the tiny front room, which housed one sofa and an armchair. I would be forced to sit on the floor as I did most evenings, but it was my job to make sure all the aunties and my nana and granddad had their fill of tea and biscuits. Anyway, every time my dad's family would sit on the sofa, I would get the strangest feeling come over me. If I looked up at them, a mist would form behind them, and from it would emerge shadows, like the outline of other people. Definitely not the outline of the guests on the sofa, but of other people. I strangely knew these were other family members. It didn't scare me, but it was weird. I tried to explain it to my mum, but she didn't understand me, even though she herself had seen spirits since she was a child. I don't know if she was protecting me in some way and hoping it would go away. Also, one of my earliest memories is being in bed at night and literally feeling the side of my mattress going down, as if someone or something had sat there. I'd be terrified and facing away, too afraid to turn around. Sometimes I would feel the pressure on my legs and I would squeeze my eyes shut as I felt my heart beat wildly in my chest. I also remember times when I thought I was floating, but these were rare. Even now, when I return to my childhood home as a woman in her late 40s, the box room, my old bedroom, gives me chills. It is now a storage room. And I hate when my mum asks me to fly up and find something. The room just gives me the creeps. Strange things have followed me since, sometimes quite intensely and others more subtly, where I would question myself. Years later, I married and was renting an apartment in the UK, in Essex, in an old building. I was heavily pregnant with my second child and mammy to a very energetic boy. Strange things began to happen again. I was at the horrible stage where I couldn't really get comfortable at night and seemed to need less sleep. I would go downstairs so as not to wake up my partner or my toddler. On one of these nights I was doing laundry. I know, but when you're wide awake you might as well put a wash on. When I heard music coming from the sitting room, I went in to find the TV on. I was a bit shocked, but just lowered down the volume and returned to the kitchen. Suddenly the hallway went darker and I realised the TV had turned itself off. I was a bit freaked out now, to say the least, and returned to bed. Over the next weeks the same thing would happen, finally happening one evening when my partner was around. Then the radio on the kitchen, which we never used, turned on. I went to check and unplugged it. My partner, who didn't at the time believe in my weird stuff, immediately got an electrician to check the wiring. We were told everything was perfect, but the TV continued to turn itself on and off. Roll on a few days before my due date and I'm again up at 3 a.m, unable to sleep and experiencing Braxton Hicks. After pacing back and forth for an hour, the contraction subsided, and I sat on the sofa hoping they'd return and for this to be my labour, when I heard a low, whirring sound. It would start for, say, 3 or 4 seconds, then stop. I looked around when suddenly out of the corner of my eye I saw something move. There, on the floor, was one of my son's toy cars slowly making its way over to me. It would jut forward, then stop, then jut again. As it neared, I bent down and grabbed it, and turned it over before realising there was no batteries in this car. Needless to say, I flung it on the sofa and ran out. We moved out shortly after my daughter was born. Roll on 5 years later, we are now living in Birmingham in the UK and again renting a house, whilst making plans to move home to Dublin. I'm in the kitchen and my dog, who was the most beautiful, tranquil bulldog, she started staring at the ceiling and whining. She was turning in circles and barking. I could see nothing, but she was freaking me out. As I myself had experienced loads in this house and I knew there was a spirit there, I sensed it especially at the top of the stairs. When standing at the top, you faced my bedroom, and to the left was the hot press. The doors to this press would constantly open on their own. I would go upstairs and close them and turn around to see them open. My dad was over visiting and could see that it was bothering me, so in true dad style he turned detective. He checked the door mechanism thoroughly. I even got my dad to do a check with me. I had him stand on the landing watching the doors whilst I went from room to room opening and closing doors to show him it wasn't caused by a draft. I even opened the front and back doors. Nothing. We then went to get a cup of tea only to walk out and find them open. My dad sort of just laughed and shrugged. My partner used to travel a lot for work, so I spent quite a few nights there alone with the children. We used to sleep with our bedroom door slightly ajar in case the kids were calling us at night. Every single time I was alone, I would turn over in bed at night to see my bedroom door wide open. I would get up, check on the kids, and go back to bed, closing it over for it to happen again. This never happened if my partner was at home. So my daughter, who was approximately 5 at the time, burst into the kitchen one day, full of small child rage, and what she said to me sent a shiver down my spine. "You know the man in my room? Well, he's really annoying me because he's moving and he is now sitting on your bed." I froze, stomach sinking, panic rising, believing there was a man in the house. I turned to her and I said, "What man?" She was fuming now. The man who's always in my room, with the one with the hat. He's on your bed." I bolted out of the kitchen and up the stairs. Please don't ask me why. It's a trait I have. I bolt towards the danger when I should be running the other way. I'd be great in a horror movie. I just needed to know if someone was in my daughter's room. I told the kids to stay by the front door and I searched the house. Nothing. My daughter came up and points to where the man was. So I asked her about the man, but only in the most unbothered way so as not to arouse panic in her. She quite happily went on to describe the man who comes into her room most nights, and you guessed it, he's in a top hat. She described him as only the top part of a man and bubbly and grey. He has no legs, but he has a big hat. A few days later, I'm driving my daughter on a very wet day to a show, and she points up at the dark clouds and goes, "Oh, that's what he looks like, all bubbly and grey. Just like that, Mammy." Over the next few months, I deliberately never mentioned the man. I allowed her to bring up the conversation when she wanted. Sometimes she drew him, sometimes she was annoyed because he had moved. I spoke with my mum regarding this, and she told me about a medium who may be able to help me. He was just outside Dublin, and on my next trip I went to see him. Immediately after our introductions, he told me I had a daughter who was seeing things, a man. I was so shocked, but he described the whole scenario to me as if he'd been there. He was able to tell me that the man didn't mean her any harm. He was the notorious Hat Man. I had never come across this before. He said he was intrigued by her and her ability to see him. He told me he would put a blessing on the home and that it would stop it for a while. But he also told me I had a spirit on the landing who liked to watch me. Again, he meant no harm. He was nothing to do with the house, but the land, and had passed young. He went on to say my dog could see things in the kitchen, and that was also the Hat Man. I left this medium feeling like he had stalked me. I've never known any medium to be so spot on as him. His blessing worked and my daughter never mentioned him again, but she still remembers him, vaguely. It actually sounds like your daughter, Karen, has potentially just inherited your abilities. Because it's mad that, like, you know, you could see the kind of spirits of the past, spirits of the family. You just sort of knew these were other family members that were surrounding the members of your current living family. You know, that, and it sounds like that ability to see things has passed from your ma to you and then to your daughter, which is really amazing. And don't get me started about people who think they were floating when they were kids. Like, and I mean that in the most, like, it freaks me out kind of way. We've been talking about, like, kids having abilities and losing them as you get older. But, like, when I put up on Instagram and TikTok about Andy Crofts from the Terror Setter podcast, he was talking about floating down the stairs when he was a kid. When I put that up on Instagram and TikTok, everybody was in the comments going, yeah, I could float when I was a kid too. And not just like, I remember floating up to bed or I remember floating downstairs, where people are like, it's your parents carrying you to bed. People being like, yeah, I went to jump off a wall and I just floated. Oh, it freaks me out. And you know what's really weird about this story, right? You've sent this in and you were talking about strange things that were happening in your house when you were in Essex. I have experienced everything going darker firsthand. Like, I have physically seen it with my own two eyeballs more than once. And to me, it's like an indicator that something is here. Something is happening, you know? And it sounds like all of these weird things just happen around you, and that maybe these things that are in the house for whatever reason are attracted to you. And I do love when people go to see psychics and the psychics are like really, really good and really accurate. That's incredible. And like, you witnessed this stuff in the house that your psychic kind of validated, if you know what I mean. You witnessed this stuff. Your dad witnessed it, and in classic dad fashion was like, well, that's just is what it is. It was happening only when your partner wasn't there. That's really interesting. And then again, we've got another story where the Hat Man is hanging around with children. Stop, Hat Man. And anytime I picture the Hat Man in these stories, I'm just picturing the Babadook from the film, which if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend. That's what I'm picturing, and it's not good. You know, it's not pleasant. How is the Hat Man still intrigued that children can see him when pretty much all children can see him? I'm convinced. Honestly, I'm saying it again. I've said it before. This is my call out. Hat Man, if you're listening, feel free to come on the show and explain yourself. I'm sure people would love it. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Thank you to Aidan and Karen for sending in your stories. Remember, if you would like to send in a story, you can do so by emailing it to reallifeghoststoriespodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out the website reallifeghoststoriespodcast.com. And if you are desperate for some extra content, you can subscribe to the Patreon. That is patreon.com/reallifeghoststories, where for $5 a month or for $2 a month, you can get access to heaps of extra content, as well as every single main and mini episode completely ad-free. And on that note, I shall see you next time.
Dude, did you order...
The new iPhone 17 Pro? Got it from Verizon, the best 5G network in America. I never looked so good.
You look the same.
But with this camera, everything looks better. Especially me.
You haven't changed your hair in 15 years. Selfies? Jack, please.
With Verizon, get the new iPhone 17 Pro, designed to be the most powerful iPhone ever, plus a new iPad and Apple One. No trade-in needed. Offer ends November 5th with a new line on Unlimited Ultimate. Best 5G source root metrics data United States 1H 2025. All rights reserved. Additional terms apply for all offers. See Verizon.com for details.